Okay.
So just hit go live. I got to do it again. It literally wants you to go live really fast.
That shouldn't be the case, though.
I know.
I'm ready.
What?
Oh, thank you.
Ah, we are live.
Hi.
Okay. There's going to be a little delay. Let's
right.
see. And then we will just check with all of our tech and do check, check, check. We are live. And I am going to see if I can bring up our chat on the side. And yes, I can. So let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Hello on this Wednesday evening. I cannot wait to introduce our honored guest this evening. She's sitting in her garden all the way in the other, well, the middle area in the United States of America. She is just outside of Chicago at her beautiful home, and we'll have a chance to chat with Arica. But I, first of all, of course, have to say welcome to the shed, Arica. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be with you, Rose, even from the crossroads of America.
There you go.
That's where I live in Indiana.
Okay.
Yes, it's called the crossroads of America. So I guess it's the center where everyone came through.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Well, I'm on the East Coast, and this is what I love about, even though we've got sometimes some buffering issues with, you know, the Zoom, we're using Zoom technology in live streaming this. So we'll go a little bit slower, but I see as you raise your glass, this is the way that we always like to start. So I want to say cheers to our change maker and our artist leader that we're going to chat with today and have a really great time. So cheers to you, Arica.
Cheers, Rose. I think last time we did cheers was in your she shed. The time that I came to Sotheby's for an auction.
I remember.
Came with me to New York. That was wonderful.
Yes. And do you remember what I picked up? Do you remember what I picked up? It's the first time I've ever bought anything in Sotheby's.
Oh, that's right.
I have a Hepburn photo. A Hepburn, Catherine Hepburn. Yes. Yeah.
I love Audrey.
Beautiful.
I have a few of Audrey in my house. I have in my kitchen, and maybe if we have time, we can go inside. But it's so beautiful out. I thought it would be so much nicer to just sit in the garden with the flowers and the trees and the green grass and the fountain, and just be in nature. Because, you know, most people don't have time to be in nature. They don't have the opportunity, especially the ones living in urban environments. You know, they don't have this.
Yeah, but, well, you're right. I mean, well, you look like a flower in the garden. You just do. It matches that beautiful dress you have on. But it's something that we are going to talk about. Yes, and it's something we're going to talk about. I'll share a little bit about my experience, and I know you can relate as a gallery owner in Chicago. So let's kick it up. I'm going to backtrack a little bit, and thank you for being in the lounge as I have, or in our shed today. But I also want to let people know that there's a fantastic story about Arica. It's at womanscape.com. So I would encourage you to visit it and have a good read. You'll see some stunning, stunning photos of Arica on a recent trip to Indonesia. And you'll also hear about the really the transformative work that you are doing as a change maker, finding a way within your world of art to create awareness about environmental issues as well as plastic pollution. So I cannot wait to talk about that. But before we do, I thought it might be really nice for you to just sort of share. You're in your garden. This is something that you mentioned at the beginning. I know you've been cultivating this. We've talked about nature. What happens when you're sitting back there in that garden? How does it make you feel?
Like a meditation.
Right.
Honestly, look around.
Yeah.
And with the flowers, you can't see everything right now, but we planted a beautiful flower garden. And here, I'll try to turn it a little bit so you can see some of the flowers.
People always like to do this too. You know, we like to go into the homes and the closets and, you know, the shoe sheds and see what people have in there. We've got some great comments coming. Oh, we got some highs happening. So one of the issues, I've got Mark, my illustrious Mark, and he can shout out some of the comments if there's some questions on the side. I do have a chat board here, but it's not syncing with Facebook. So I apologize, Arica. I'm interrupting your gorgeous tour there.
Oh
And
no,
the
we're fine. It's
fountain.
okay.
Okay, well, hopefully we can come back and maybe we'll do a nice little meditative easing out at the end of the session, and that will help people sort of to decompress.
Just thought it would be nice for people just to see a little bit of nature. And you know, I've lived in the city for so long, so many years, and my gallery's in the city in Chicago, and it's beautiful, and I love the city. I love the architecture. I love the energy. I love the Lake Michigan. It's so beautiful. You had asked me a question, what makes me happy? I think
what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? And what made me happy when I was living in the city was getting on my bike and riding down that lakefront on the trail going south over by the Art Institute, and getting on the trail, going around the museums, the Field Museum, the Shed Aquarium, the planetarium, and going south and just being part of nature. It was so beautiful. So Chicago is very fortunate because it does have the lake. So there is a lot of nature.
Well, I completely agree. Sorry, I completely agree. And I know I lived in Chicago, and that's where we first met. When I moved from Canada, I spent a little bit of time in New York in the Connecticut area, and then moved out and met you. And the city is fantastic because I feel like it's built around nature, isn't it? Everything is around the gardens and the bike paths, and it's such a...
Well, I mean, after the Chicago fire, it was designed, I mean, urban planning at its best.
Right.
You know, with Burnham Harbor, we have the way the streets are lined up. Michigan Avenue, it's one of the most beautiful avenues in the world. I mean, I mean, it has been until just recently with some of the things that have been happening. It's been very painful. You know, I don't know if you want to get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I'm going to say hi to Felicia and hi to Judith here. Felicia is a designer. I hope you don't mind me calling you out, Felicia. She's a designer who is all about gardens and just redid her own. And when you said you're happy in your garden, I think one of the things, hi there, Jillian, one of the things about the garden as well is we are taking time. We have time to flock to it now because sometimes for good reasons and other times, you know, there are so many people without jobs. We have to be conscious of that and the economic disparity and the challenges happening. But I think the opening of some of the parks is a really good thing again, that for those that don't have a beautiful yard like yours, that they can go and indulge in nature. And do that.
Well, I'll tell you, this was a long time coming. My whole life, I've worked and worked and worked, and I've been in the art business for over 30 years now.
Is it over 30 years?
Been over 30 years. Yeah, it's been a long time. I started when I was in my 20s.
I was going to say you were only 10 when you started, so that would make you about 40.
But I'll tell you, it's been a journey. It's been a beautiful journey. The ups, the downs. I have seen the economy go up and down. You know, the art market is an interesting gauge. You see, we deal with a lot of people who are in finance. We deal with people, you know, CEOs of companies, presidents of companies. An interesting world. And so through the arts, we can gauge, and I did a couple of live broadcasts with some of the artists that I represent, like David Yarrow, Paul Nickla, and Christina Mittermeier. David was in finance before he became a full-time photographer. And now he's one of the best-selling photographers in the world, if not the #1 best-selling photographer. Paul Nickla, he is a superstar beyond superstars. National Geographic. He has 6.5 million followers on Instagram. And that's not even all of his fan base, because he in, he's from your part of the world. He's from
Yeah.
Canada.
He's
And
West
from
Coast.
Bath.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm
And this is a good time too. I mean, I don't have gallery photos that I can bring up. I do have some photos that I'm going to share, a screen share, that have you in some lovely vignettes. But I would encourage everyone to take a look at Arica Hilton's gallery. It's Hilton Asmus Contemporary. Is that right? .com. That people can visit that.
.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll leave some tags at the end as well, because honestly, my experience with Arica is over the since I've known her, actually, it's the whole time. She continues to curate these artists that are the best at what they do, whether they're photographers or painters, but many of them come with such interesting backstories, and they're late to the game sometimes, which for all of us listening, sometimes I think we get caught, don't we, in the life that we're living, and we are afraid to change, or we don't think we can change, or we're not good enough. And you've probably seen this with some of the artists that you represent, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think the ones who are the most successful are the ones who are open to change, and
Right.
they make their own change.
That's a
They
good
don't
point.
just let the winds move them, and they don't complain about, oh, the economy is bad, everything is bad. They don't do that. What they do is they create their art. And I think you and I have spoken before. One of the
Yeah.
reasons that I love being an artist is because I have a clean palette. Every single day, I can choose what I want my life to be. I can
Oh
paint it.
gosh.
I can draw it. I can say, okay, this is what I choose, because everything is about choices. There are people who think, during the Depression, the Great Depression in the 1930s, um, a lot of people suffered, but there were a lot of people who made money. And all of the people who made money weren't bad people. you
Right.
know, they're,
No,
they're,
no.
it's, making money is a beautiful thing. It's sacred if you do it right and you do it well. You do it with compassion, and you do it with giving something back, not just taking.
You know what's really nice? I'm looking at all the amazing women that are in our audience. There's probably more that aren't piping up with any comments, but all of them that I'm looking at, they all have art as a central core value, I would say, in who they are. Whether it's singing, whether it's marketing and writing, decorating, designing, I think all of us find a way. And I have to admit, I don't know if you'd agree, but I think Instagram took off for that reason, didn't it? We could all take a photograph of our food that, our beautiful plate or our gorgeous glass of whatever, or just share this feeling of being in an artful state,
Because
right?
people are visual. They
Yeah,
need to use their senses, and people don't realize that.
true,
All of the
true.
stuff, because
Yeah,
everything is art.
yeah.
We can talk about music, we can talk about architecture,
Hmm.
interior design, fabric design, textiles.
Yeah,
Everything is design.
yeah,
Everything we live in is art.
yeah, yeah.
People don't realize that art is in
No,
it's everywhere.
agreed.
And
Yeah.
even designing a garden, landscape architecture, I
Mm.
am just in awe of the people who know how to plant the right flowers next to the other right.
It's not
And
me.
a little bit of a little Japanese beetle problem. I'm learning about insects now, eating my
Mm,
flowers and my roses, and
mm,
but everything is art if you choose to think of it that way, and you
you,
choose to think
yes.
about, like, okay, you were talking about change.
Yeah.
This is one of the most drastic times in the history of our world
Isn't
that
it?
we are forced to change. Either
Yeah.
we adapt
Hmm.
or we're gone. We fail.
And
Our
can you imagine, Erica? I mean, I'm reading again some more comments here about art, the choices that we have, that art is sacred. I'm seeing two thumbs up on that one, that art is sacred. It's our escape, I think, but it's also our expression. It's so many things. And even, I mean, think about how it cuts across language. You can hear an amazing singer on stage, not understand the language she's singing in, but the song
The
can
song, the
communicate
sound, primordial sound. I mean,
everything.
if you
Yeah.
think about it, without sound, what would this earth be?
Yeah.
You know, you hear the waves of the ocean, you hear
Mhm.
the birds singing. Without
Yeah.
hearing that, our life would be so bland, it would be so empty. You know,
Oh,
music.
yep.
Many artists can't create unless they hear music. It's
Right.
so important.
Yeah.
Um, and then you look at literature,
Yes.
poetry. I mean, everything is
Our
important.
core.
You know, it's sort of everything. Yeah.
Agreed. Well, do you mind if I put a couple of pictures out up? Because I
Not at
think
all.
that this would be a wonderful segue into the art of the ocean and sharing a little bit about what you did. I'd love you to talk to this. You know, our viewers out there, I know the names that I'm seeing, they all know I've gone to Kilimanjaro and I've gone to Baffin Island, but I've never gone under the water, under the ocean. I've never been, you
You're
know,
going to. I'm going to take you with me.
I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. But I love this photo. So bear with me, everybody. I'm going to do a screen share on some of the things I've got on my desktop here. I'd love to share. This is not the
Oh,
one.
that's my friend Alan. He is my dear sweet friend. Alan is an Iron Man.
Okay.
And okay, so I learned how to swim when I was 47 years old. Like really swim. I mean, I could tread water. I could swim in a pool, but I was petrified of going in open water in
Right.
Lake Michigan. And Alan took me one day at 5 o'clock in the morning at Ohio Street Beach. Those from
Yes.
Chicago will know. Ohio Street Beach is where all of the triathletes train at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And he would call me and he'd say, "All right, Missy, wake up, get on your bike and go down to the beach." And so we went there and I stepped in the water and he swam with me like, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 feet until all of a sudden I wasn't afraid of the water anymore.
Beautiful.
And it was one of the most, it was like one of the greatest accomplishments of my life, overcoming that fear. And actually, oh, my little turtle, that was in Raja Ampat. That was one of the first photographs that I took when I went to Indonesia. I was on the scientific expedition for Ocean Geographic magazine. And we were in Ambon, which is, oh
Yeah.
God, like
Tell
a
us where this all
6 hour.
is. Tell us where this all is, because I know when you did the travel, and we've got a story on it. You discussed the 7 legs of the trip. It was massive. So I had no idea where you were really. So
So
I don't know.
Indonesia is a collection of islands. There are over 13,000 islands. I remember, I don't know how many there are now, but like 20 years ago, I remember it was 13,677 islands, something like that. Now it could be 14,000 islands. But it stretches from, so I went from Chicago to Tokyo.
Okay.
And from Tokyo, Narita, I went to, where did we go? Okay, to Jakarta. And that one actually is Mexico. That's Guadalupe Island.
Okay.
So I didn't see any sharks in Raja Ampat. This was a shark dive that I did in a cage. I didn't go out with the sharks. It was the first time. It was actually so cool, and they're so beautiful. But I'll go back to Indonesia. So we went to Jakarta, and from Jakarta, so it was like 12, 13 hours to Tokyo. And then it was another 7 hours to Jakarta. And from Jakarta, it was another 6 hours, something like that, across Indonesia to Ambon. And we were in the Spice Islands.
Wow.
It was so incredible. We were on a boat, and it was a liveaboard, and I have motion sickness. It wasn't easy, but I wanted so badly to be on the scientific expedition, and I was asked to be one of 2 artists on board. There were 3 boats, and I was very fortunate. I was on a boat with National Geographic photographers, David Dubélé and his wife, Jennifer Hayes. I mean, it was like all these professional divers, and I had to get my scuba diving certification. I hadn't been diving in 20 years, and I had to recertify, and I had to overcome my fears again, going underwater. So I understand about your fear of going underwater, but I have to tell you, once you do it, once you go down and you relax and you breathe, you're like on another planet. You see the coral. So Raja Ampat is this one of the most biodiverse areas in the world, and it's protected by the Indonesian government. So they are protecting there are more species of fish in Indonesia, in Raja Ampat, than anywhere in the world. I mean, it's one of the healthiest ecosystems, and we need to keep that healthy, because right now so many of our ecosystems are dying in the ocean, and people don't know this. Many people don't. A lot of them do. 70% of the air that we breathe comes from the ocean. It doesn't come from the rainforest. I mean, the rainforest is important. The rainforest, I don't know, 20%. The other 10% is trees, and I know you're doing this.
Well, and we're destroying our trees too. I mean, look at all the logging that's happened as well. I mean, I know we could talk on about it. I wish that I had lined up more photos. I cleaned my desktop, everyone, so you wouldn't see what it really looked like. But I have stunning photos that you've taken, Arica. You know, maybe people are able to see some of this, or we'll post some as a follow-up to this conversation. But you've got pictures of the plastic that you found in doing the dive that caught fish and strangled fish. And it was a real hazard for people even, and the boats. It became a huge hazard, didn't it?
There are a lot of things going on in the oceans, and one of the things I'm doing in my gallery right now, we are this is our year of conservation, which means that everything we're doing is trying to bring attention to the environment, to climate change, the state of the oceans, plastics. You know, I did a small film about my trip to Raja Ampat called Ocean, about plastic straws. People don't realize 500 million plastic straws a day are used one time and thrown away. So now you're looking at billions of straws that are just being used one time to sip out of a glass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do I need a straw? I don't need a straw. Okay, sometimes you do, but they're bamboo straws. They're straws that are biodegradable. Use those. Restaurants need to stop, like bars, going in and they put these straws just to be cute.
I'm just going to say it too. Sorry, ladies, I'm going to call it out. And maybe this is, you know, taking us away from the beautiful, serene art of nature here. It's not good for our lips as well, right? If we want to. Yes. So I think exactly. I mean, it's different when you're, you know, all those beautiful young people that do those gorgeous pouts and things like that on Instagram. You know, I just don't do those anymore. I don't think I ever did, but I mean, I'm very conscious. Yeah. I mean, I'm just very, very conscious now of straws, the fact that they do contribute so much. I know the plastic, even from when cigarettes, the billions of people, or the billions of cigarettes, the filters from the cigarettes are also a massive pollutant. And many people don't realize, there's little things we can do that you encourage, isn't there, for us to make change?
You know, when you go into a restaurant or you go into a coffee shop, tell them you don't want a straw.
Right.
You don't need. If you do need one, bring your own. They're metal straws, like we said, bamboo straws, biodegradable. Bring your own. If you need it, you know, for a smoothie, I get it. You know, it's not easy. Bring a spoon, something like that.
Yeah.
Something wood, but. And then that's another story about logging and wood. I mean, there's so much. We have to live consciously. We can't be perfect. No one is perfect. But the one thing I do want to mention, and I think more and more people know this, the oceans are full of plastic. Plastic doesn't biodegrade for 500 to 1,000 years. They break up into small pieces that are microplastics. The fish
Right.
are eating these microplastics. The
Mhm.
plankton is eating these plastics, these little microplastics. We are eating plastic every single day. People
Mhm.
have no idea how much
Yeah.
plastic we are ingesting
And then we
from
wonder,
sea salt. You know,
right?
how are you going to
Right.
know that sea salt has plastic in it?
Hmm.
No, I mean, I know that's not good for the sea salt business by saying that, but you know,
Yeah.
sea salt, they'll get over it.
Well, but I mean, to your point though, we don't know what this is doing to our body. So part of, and I know, Arica, when you started, when COVID hit, you immediately retreated to your garden. I think and we can talk a little bit about that with the city and what we've seen, but you retreated to the garden and got your hands in the dirt and started doing something creative. It was an outlet to feel better and to feel connected physically as well as mentally, right? To nature and the art of nature. Um, People are doing this. Do you have a garden? Do you grow any? Do you have tomatoes or any kind of food or any
I do.
ingestibles?
I have tomatoes. I
There you
have
go.
deer that come in the
Okay.
backyard. And they're so cute. I have to tell you, my deer are
I
beautiful.
know.
But
Yeah.
I hope they're not going to eat all my tomatoes. I have some really sweet
Okay.
tomato plants over there.
Right.
I have mint, I have basil,
Nice.
rosemary, um,
Nice.
oregano.
Nice.
Um, I love herbs,
Yeah.
and I'm actually my next step is working on a new book called Herbs from My Garden: A Love Story. As you know, my mother passed away 3 weeks ago,
Yeah, absolutely.
and she loved to cook,
Mhm.
and she always used fresh herbs in all of the foods that she created. And so
Mhm.
this is going to be a memorial, an homage to my mother. But a lot of them are my own recipes. You know, we take
Mhm.
recipes from our parents, and then
Mhm.
we make them our own.
Right.
And so I'm going to do something really beautiful in a week and a half. I wish you were here.
I
We're going to
know. Me
set up
too.
a beautiful table. Two of my friends are interior designers, and they're
Mhm.
going to set up tables in my garden. With one is going to be a tea party where she's
Mhm.
setting up each tea set. You're going to love that.
Okay. We're
And
going to share this. We're going to share this, folks. Yeah.
And my friend Mary Susan Bichiki, she's an
Okay.
amazing, unbelievable designer. She's award-winning designer, and
Mhm.
she's a perfectionist. And she's going to um, create this magical table setting in my garden. And then my other
Gorgeous.
friend Elizabeth Scott, she's going to be designing the dinner table,
Oh,
and we're going to
lovely.
do a party. But it's a memorial. It's going to be something meaningful. We're going to photograph it and film it, and it's
Mhm.
going to be part of the book. But it's going to be about all the fresh herbs that I will be using in all my recipes.
So,
And people, you don't,
mhm.
fresh herbs, mint. It's
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
just put in your water or your mojito or
Right. Well,
cook it
it's good to have one in
every
that mojito. Yeah. But no, see, and I love this too. And for those that don't know Erica the way I do, I mean, she's from the Mediterranean, and there's just this gorgeous connection with water and land and soil and new life. And maybe one of the unintended consequences of this pandemic is are needing to look for new life, new ways to stay inspired, whether it's in the garden. Um, I'm gonna throw a picture up just because we're going a little on time, and maybe this is not new life, but I know that some of the people out there will really identify with this one. This is a crazy one. I saw it as very inspiring. You may see it as very jarring. Here he
Oh,
is.
that. It's hefty.
Okay. Yes. I think you've seen him before. Erica, have you seen this
Not
gentleman
in
before?
person. I saw the picture.
Okay. It's kind of feels a little funny. I got to admit it that this is a half naked man. It's not where I'm used to seeing always half naked women in all of the advertisements. So this is a new thing. But this is the naked cowboy. And I didn't save the back shot because if he was to turn around, you'd see naked cowboy on his butt there. Um, I was inspired when I saw him. When I moved to the New York area or the tri state area, he was an icon. He was 20 years younger, and New Yorkers, he was one of the top 10 tourist attractions. And so today I'm going to take him off because he's a little distracting to me. And we'll put a beautiful Arica back up there.
I don't mind. He's sort of cute.
Well, he is. But here's the thing, I saw him. I went into the city, and Arica knows the story, to go and visit with a friend that was worried she had COVID. And I don't think she'd mind me saying this. I won't share her name, but she was worried that she might have COVID. So I went down into the city, and I ended up at 45th and Avenue of Americas, which is 6th Avenue, between 6th and 5th. And I recognized this was the place where everything started. My husband, Barry, his first job was in the building that I was parked out in front of. So here I was 20 years later. When we moved, we were 2 months before the Twin Towers falling. And here I was today going in to help a friend. New York feels like such a beautiful art-inspired place for me. I love going into the city and the museums. And our time at Sotheby's and walking around Rockefeller and all the really interesting attractions and art the city offers. But here I was feeling like, wow, deja vu. It's a really hard, heavy time. And I was circling around waiting for my friend in the doctor's office, and I passed Times Square, and there was the naked cowboy. And I gotta tell you, he just made me feel good. I said, if that naked cowboy can be out there for everyone saying kind of it's business as usual, or I'm out here for you, then we have hope. We have hope. I don't know. What do you think?
We have to have hope because human beings are resilient. All right, we're going through COVID. There was the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
World War. There have been wars. There are people displaced all over the world right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there are countries that have been decimated, and people have lost their beautiful homes. They're living in tents. There's so many things happening in the world today. So when I'm in my garden, I can't be more grateful for having this, for having the green, for having the nature, the fresh air, the food on my table, the art on my walls, the friends that I have, every single thing in my life. I want to say thank you because I know I don't know exactly what these people are feeling because how could I? But I know that I want to understand and be compassionate and do whatever I can to make this world a more peaceful place, to make it so that when people do business, it's a win-win for everyone. So that when people are out protesting, we hear their voices and we say, okay, I didn't have your experience, but I want to understand and I want to be better and I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better person.
Yeah.
Because that's what we have to do. There's so much distrust right now. There's so much sadness going on in the world. So many people every day are dying. They're being killed for one reason or another. Children are not being educated. But the one thing I can say about this COVID that has hit the world, not just us in our neighborhood or in our local environment, it's global.
It's
and
global.
Human beings have to learn how to administer their lives.
We need to get along. It's and we need to stand in each other's shoes. I know, and Arica can share a little bit about what it was like with her gallery in Chicago, but I mean, I know you're an activist, and I said, okay, I need to understand, just like you're talking about, and going out and being a part of the protests, even if you don't understand what's going on, go and look and see, and don't be afraid. Listen and take it in. We need to understand and learn how to diffuse the anger. I think you're just so right, and in sharing that. Mm-hmm.
Well, we had during the protests. I mean, first we had the lockdowns, so
Right.
we had to close our gallery. Our gallery was closed for almost 3 months, and then the protests happened. And once that happened, we found out that they were coming in our neighborhood, and my employee Matt, he's just a sweetheart, wonderful, dedicated young man. He lived in the neighborhood and of the gallery, and he went over and turned off all the lights and
Mm-hmm.
pulled everything out of the windows so that we weren't in the line of fire. And had he not done that, we may have had a lot of damage, because a few doors down from us, one of the stores, who has a wonderful boutique, I just bought face masks from her and some
Yeah.
accessories yesterday, actually. Um, Her store was looted, all the jewelry was stolen,
Mm-hmm.
everything was broken. The CVS pharmacy that's just a few doors down from us at the corner,
Mm-hmm.
they had trucks pulling up. You know what? Those were not the protesters. They were
Yeah.
not the peaceful protesters. Those were organized crime. And we
Right.
saw it. And it was so frustrating seeing that. And the police weren't there because they were over by the protesters. And there's so many good people in the world. There are good
Mm-hmm.
policemen in the world who want to do good things. They're
Yes.
not, they're being demonized right now. Of course, there are the ones who are not doing the right thing. Those
Mm-hmm.
people have to go.
Yeah.
But there are the ones who are doing the right thing. And those are the ones who need to speak up. And it's
Right.
hard because, it's like a military system.
Well,
And
I think it's
it's
that important though, isn't it? We have to speak up. And I think doing the reason for doing the Facebook lives, quite honestly, is for us to connect again. Yes, to connect with you, Arica. I always love being together with you and chatting, but it gives everyone an opportunity. And, when I look down at some of the messages here, John Lennon, the Imagine song, look at John Lennon and the Beatles and the music that they left, and his end of story. I mean, if we don't take the positive in nature and trump the negative, pun intended,
I love it.
then where are we? Where are we? Where are we?
Where
Yeah.
this country has to come together.
Yes.
People have to understand one another. I don't care if they're Republican. I don't care if they're Democrat. I don't care if they're non whatever.
Mm,
Everyone has to listen to one another, and they have to hear one another.
yeah.
And then they have to say, you know what? Let me understand how you feel,
Yeah.
because that's what they're not doing. Everyone thinks I'm right. Okay, I'm right. But it's my perception.
Yeah.
It's my
Yeah.
perception of what's right.
Well, and we come, we can't help it. We're born into it's a lottery, right? Where we're born. The parents, we don't get to choose our parents. We don't get to choose our siblings. We get to choose our friends, and we get to make decisions as we get older that shape us. But I think, we are born into circumstances that shape our moral fiber, our ethical fiber. And then it's up to us to go out and ask the questions, but also to take people along and not expect as well for them to be in the same place as you are. So I agree with you. If we could get the conversation going, and that's what thank you, this is. Looking at the beauty of your garden. I don't know, does anyone have any questions for Arica? I've got a nice little screen here about what she does. I do. I'm kind of cheating on the cell phone here, and I'm wondering, I mean, I see beautiful things. Art and nature unite. They do unite. And we are not our circumstances. This is from like one very wise woman. It is so true. Who knows better than anyone else. We choose, like you said, terrible things happen to really good people. We know that, and it's what we do about it. I Maya Angelou says it in her poem, and still we rise. Do you expect me to stand still and to stay down? No, no, you know.
So I read a book many, many years ago that touched me. It was called Captains and the Kings.
Hmm.
And there was one quote that has stayed with me since I was a teenager. And I think that is what has guided me my entire life. And you just brought up about choosing, about choice. And
Mm.
the quote goes, "We all choose what we wish to be. No
Yeah.
one impels or compels us. The same wind which blows a ship onto the rocks can
Hmm.
just as easily blow it into safe harbor. In short, it is not the wind, it is the set of the sail."
Mm. Beautiful. And if no one's, I'm sure everyone's picking this up. Arica also happens to call or to have poet under her description of published writer, poet, entrepreneur. She is a businesswoman, really in the art industry when women weren't doing what you were doing. She was a single mother, raising two beautiful sons. You've really done it all. You can see why she is such a special person in my life and is in the art world. And your humility astounds me always. You hit every major art basel and show. She's always a feature at everything, speaking and showcasing
We're doing the Art
the,
Aspen right now, the virtual Art Aspen, which is really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Right now, actually, I wouldn't have been able to do this had it not been for COVID,
right.
because every year we go to Aspen, and this is the week
Mm-hmm.
that Art Aspen opens, and today is the opening day. So what the fair organizers did was they decided to have a virtual fair.
Oh, wow.
And so
Mm-hmm.
we posted the works online, and that's what we're doing now. Is everything is virtual. It's really interesting the way it's happening. Um, we've been okay because people, the internet. Thank goodness for the internet, um,
Yes.
because we've been able to do business online, and we're on many marketplaces online. So we've been doing that for years. Um, so it's been good for us in that sense. So I think with choices with COVID and people losing their jobs, I
Mm-hmm.
think this is going to force people to think outside of their boxes.
Yes.
Think about,
Mm-hmm.
what are my attributes? What are my assets? What can I do in my life? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
start your own business. I don't know, start your own herb business. Start
Right.
something,
Mm-hmm.
something that you love doing, because sometimes that's what it takes, is a big kick
Right.
in our lives to say, you can't do this anymore. You need to do
Right.
something else.
Right.
And what are we
Right.
going to do with our karma?
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Choose.
Well, I could not, I couldn't have said that better. That quote that you read, that you had, and you
Quoted.
just pulled out
A
of
quote
your,
that I quoted.
yeah, the quote that you
I'll write it
quoted,
for you. I'll,
you must
I'll,
share it. Could you please share that? We have a request for you to
I will.
share that.
I will.
Um, I'm stumbling over my words today. It's been one of those sleepless nights too. I'm sure many of you will identify with that. Both Eric and I were commiserating this morning, saying neither of us slept till about 4 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
Something in the
4:30.
air. Yeah.
I was
So
excited about being on your show.
there you go.
So
Yeah.
wonderful. And you know what? One day, and I don't know if anyone in the audience knows, I was supposed to go with you to Kilimanjaro,
Yes,
and
you
I had to
were.
cancel. And it was one of the most heartbreaking experiences of my life, because I've always wanted to climb, and
Mhm.
you climbed it for us. You
I
were
d-
right there. You
well,
did.
I you were with me. You were with me, and everyone was with me. I look at the names of some people tuning in, and most definitely, I think we're going to have to share our journeys as well, maybe on another one, and we'll get a nice little photo thing, because having a little gallery
I'll
and
send
being
you
able,
photos.
that would be really great if you could do that. So I always end our live in the shed with Rose with some sort of a movie recommendation. So thanks to you, Erica. I had a little sneak preview the Chicago Film Festival sent me a link. So I did get a little sneak preview on a movie by Common that's called A Beautiful Thing. And I think it will be out probably on AMC. I don't know how they're going to show it. But it's a wonderful story that takes place in Chicago, and it speaks to the union of sort of black and white. Common narrates the whole thing and has music in there, but it's about a group of black students from the South Side that rode, and then 20 years later they get together with the police and do it in 2019. So of course it's really uplifting and a great reminder, but I can't wait till that goes out. So I'm going to recommend that, even though I don't know how you can sing it yet, but there is one. This is an ode to Arica. If anyone has seen this, it's called Britney Runs a Marathon. I don't know if there's anyone in the audience that saw this. Arica, it is, right? I saw it at the Angelica Theater in New York. It was a low budget first time, and it's about a girl that can barely walk around her corner of her house, and how she goes from that and a major breakup and everything else to running a marathon like you did.
Mine was a triathlon.
Okay, even more. Wow.
Triathlon was marathon is 26.2 miles. Mine was the first one was a sprint, quarter-mile swim.
Okay.
It was a 14-mile bike, and then it was 5K run. So that one was easy. I got through that, and then I did the Olympic, which was really cool. I learned how to do that, and I have to tell you, for someone who had never really worked out in her life, I'm in my 40s at this point, the end of my 40s, and I learned how to swim half mile and then a mile, which was really great. So the Olympic distance is half mile swim. Let's see, what was it? I'm forgetting things.
I don't know.
Mile bike.
You're making me tired as I listen.
Yeah, it was a 10K run. And I did a few of those. And I don't know if we have 2 minutes. I'll tell you a quick story about that picture with my friend, Alan Yakabuchi. He's the coolest guy, my Ironman friend. Yes. And everyone needs to have like a friend like Alan. He was living in California at the time, and this was I think my fourth triathlon. And I had just done the Chicago Olympic distance triathlon. And he said, come to Malibu and let's do Nautica together. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Why not? I get there. Well, I'm exhausted because I had done the Chicago triathlon 2 weeks before. And I'm not an Ironman. Okay. I did it. It was great. I finished. I'm not the fastest. I'm like the tortoise, the tortoise and the hare.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right. So I get there and I'm thinking to myself, am I out of my mind? I can't do this. And I'm on the beach. I'd never done the run into the beach. In Chicago, you jump into the water off of Monroe Street, where, you jump in and you start swimming, and you have like hundreds of people swimming over you. It's really horrible. So it was scary my first couple of times.
I'm sorry, I'm out of here. I'm out of there. That would terrify me.
So I'm there, and it's 6:00 in the morning, and I'm seeing these 6-8 foot waves of the Pacific Ocean. I'm petrified, going, am I out of my mind? What was I thinking? What am I trying to prove? And so I put in my earplugs and my swim cap, and all of a sudden it was dead silence. I didn't hear the roar of the waves anymore. Right. And they weren't as scary because I didn't hear that sound. Nice. And then I did hear the bugle go off, and I saw everybody starting to run into the water. And so I start running with them, and I go into the water, and I'm not a professional swimmer. I can just, barely just swim and without drowning. And I'm walking into the water, and the waves are hitting me back. I'm trying to walk through the waves, and they're just slapping me right down until I'm almost drowning at this point. Yeah. And then I hear a sound from somebody, and this man is yelling at me, go under, go under.
Oh,
And so I went
terrific. Yeah,
under the wing and I came back up
you were
and it
fine.
was a sheet of glass.
Yeah,
It was
nice.
so clear. Once I got through that, I had my best personal record at that time. And
Nice.
it was one of the most satisfying experiences. At that same triathlon, Matthew McConaughey was there. He had done the sprint before me. I was doing the Olympic distance, which was cool.
Ah.
And Jennifer Lopez was there too.
Take that,
I
Matthew.
got to see Matthew
J Lo.
McConaughey taking off his shirt. This is a long time ago. And but I have to tell you, it's overcoming your fears.
Yeah, you're
And I
right.
find that I'm constantly trying to do things. It's like what you did in Baffin Island, when you went,
Yeah.
I mean, you trekked 100 kilometers with snowshoes. How you did that, I can't even imagine. And you did it. You
Well,
overcame your fears. You're my
yeah.
hero, Rose.
Oh gosh.
You
Okay. Well, this is a love in because I could never do what you did swimming, truly. And I think to your point, though, we're all afraid of so much. And it's okay to be afraid. But again, there's choice. You can choose what to do about it. And when you do conquer something, because that story with you swimming, I felt the same way hiking. What the hell was I thinking? What am I trying to prove? This is way past, having midlife crisis. And yet that feeling of going to bed each night and knowing you had conquered these pieces and then reaching the summit or reaching the end of your race. I think the pandemic is going to feel like this. I think that this is a long distance marathon and we have some choices here. And your garden and the beautiful vignette that I see with you there is what I want to choose. I choose this. I choose friendship
Well,
and
we
love.
have our friends.
Mm-hmm.
We have our family. Our friends are the family that we choose.
Right.
And I think that the most important thing with friends is you bring each other up.
Right.
So
Right.
those are true friends. I have to say one last thing about the triathlon and what I gleaned from it. And it was my first one. And my two sons were at the finish line. And I remember I was running right to the finish line and I heard a voice to my left, and it was my son's voice, and he said, "That's my mom.
That's my mom.
That's my mom."
Mm-hmm.
And as I was going to the finish line, my sons saw me
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
finishing that race.
Yeah.
And I still get choked up
Now, all of a
thinking
sudden, too, you're not just a mom, like you're a mom, but you are a woman conquering something, and this is two sons, and that's not lost on me either.
and I raised my two boys by myself. I mean, I was
Right.
divorced. I mean, that's another show.
Yeah, we don't
I
have
have an
time for
Oprah
that.
story. Yeah, that's my Oprah story of what I've gone through in life, in business. But I think
Yeah.
it was about teaching my children through example,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
not just saying do this, do that, but saying, hey, look, if I can
Right.
do this, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. I agree.
I'm not a hero. I'm just a woman who wants to accomplish things in life because I don't know how many lives we have. I know
Mhm.
about this one life. And
Right.
in this life, I want to know that I did everything I possibly could
Agreed.
to make our
Give it
world a better
and give
place.
it your all. Give it your
Yeah.
all. Not have regrets. Yeah.
I mean, what we want to
Yep.
just eat and drink and sleep and work and pay bills and okay, survive. Sure,
No.
we all have to
Mhm.
survive.
Mhm.
But why don't you take that survival and turn it into something magnificent?
Well, you're
And I
doing
know
that.
that
You're
that's what
doing
you do
that.
with women.
Wow. Thank you.
No, that's
Thank
what
you.
Women's Faith is about. It's our Explorers Club. We're going to do that.
It is. We're going to do this, everyone listening.
Yeah.
And I want to end on that note. It's you're sitting in this beautiful setting, and it is dark here, and the rain. I just saw lightning outside my window. It's this massive storm. So there's kind of a nice little ironic sort of dichotomy happening here with choosing the darkness and the light. Where we're going to go with that, but But I think to our friendship here, ask anyone that is watching to share this with a friend and tag them, bring them along, come into the shed and let's have a conversation. I would love suggestions on people that you would like to see in the shed. I'd love to have some dynamic conversations just about things that matter. What are we reading? What are we watching? What are we cooking? Cooking would be awesome. What are we, right?
Yes.
So, all right. Well, I think we've
Rose, so much for having me on the show. I am so grateful. Thank you for sharing my little piece of heaven here with me.
thank you.
Wish I could have everyone in the audience. I welcome you to my home and to share in the beauty of nature. If you can just go out. By the way, we didn't mention one of the artists that I do represent is Christina Mittermeier, who's another one of my heroes, on the cover of Womanscape magazine. And Christina, the National Geographic photographer, she is the she was selected by Mercedes-Benz for their platform on inspiring and empowering women called She's Mercedes. Right. And we have an article coming up in your next magazine, the next issue, which I'm so excited about. But Christina is another one of those. She's a miracle, really. Yeah,
she's amazing.
Photography, she really is. And so I just wanted to mention that I'll be talking more about her in the future. And I know that she's like one of those beacons of light. And you may have dark there right now, but without the dark, we can't have light. We have to share it. We have to see it. And it's
so true.
Oh, that even though there's darkness, I know it sounds cliche, but yeah, every time there's darkness, the sun comes up the next morning,
So true. It's so true. And you're right. I mean, I think that's it's so hard to get off this. It's so hard to get off and say goodnight. It really is, because we're really having like such a nice time and a nice conversation. I hope we're not boring people. But truly, we're talking about things that everyone feeling heavy and feeling consumed. We're talking about why we need friends, all the good, fun stuff, the movies, the opportunities to take time out and to read and to just enjoy and build what we want in life. You're just the perfect, you just need to hold that shot just like that. And we'll zoom out, but maybe we can share a few extra pictures tomorrow. So come back and take a look at those. Share.
We can post.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. And let's try to keep this going and tag people. And I know I've got a special surprise in August. We're going to have a special meditation that will be on light for everyone. So we'll have that Zoom and we'll have someone leading that. So welcome to any kind of ideas and things you'd like to see happening. But I think on that note, I'm going to say good night. I may be adding something to my beautiful orange juice here, my healthy drink. And thank you again, Arica. You are
Rose, and thank you to everyone who is watching. I wish I could see you all. Rose, you get to see it, which is great. I should have done that on my iPhone. I should have gone on Facebook. I didn't even think about it. I was just too chill here. But it's been a long road. Everything, every day, listening to the news, every time hearing everything that's going on. We all need a little bit of heaven in our minds. And so I wish joy to each and every one of you.
Thank you, Arica.
Especially to you, young lady. This has been fun. It's great.
All right. I like the sound of that. It's great seeing you too.
I love it.
Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Look for some of those extra posts and, thank you. Thank you, my beautiful friend. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye to everyone.
Bye.